the other side of cheating. About a year ago, I, 18M, met this girl, 17F, at school and we started a friendship. At the time I found her pretty, but not in any outstanding sort of way. A few months later, she starts dating another guy from our school, and while in the middle of that relationship, she tells me she finds me attractive. I brushed this off knowing she was in a relationship, and given that she was otherwise one of the nicest and most honest people I had ever met, I didn't consider this confession to be much of a red flag. A few months after that, she moves away to a very small town in another province because of personal issues at home. Around this time, her and her BF broke up because he didn't want to do long distance. Following this breakup, she calls me for emotional support. As she had just moved a long ways away from her hometown as well as recently broken up, she felt isolated and started calling me for emotional support and friendship, albeit over the phone, as I was one of her few friends who chose to keep in contact with her. Over a period of several weeks, we made a habit of talking on the phone for hours at a time. Though our conversations never really took on any romantic undertones, as it was clear that pursuing each other while that far away would have been pointless, they did start feel very intimate, and I felt that she was one of the few people who could listen to me with an open heart and no judgment. This feeling of comfort with each other was also expressed by her. After a few weeks later, however, she found a new boyfriend in her new town, and the calls eventually stopped. I was happy she was no longer lonely, and I had started dating another girl, so she quickly left my mind. Then about a month before grad, she ends up moving back near me and is at our old school again. Needless to say, we reconnected. 1 week after moving back, she calls me to let me know she found her BF had cheated on her and that they had broken up. I, incidentally, had also recently broken up with my girlfriend, and so we started hanging out after school. At this point, I had considered asking her to date, but it didn't really seem like that was something she wanted. So I instead just asked her out somewhat haphazardly to grad, as neither of us had a date. She agreed. Then just a few days later, she ends up getting back together with BF. Her still lives very far away. Apparently she had wanted me to ask her out, but thought I was the one who didn't seem that interested. We still talk to each other every day, but we both made it clear that we were happy to be friends. Grad night rolls around, and although she was not my official date, we ended up basically abandoning all our other friends for most of the night and danced and drank AMD, hung out with just each other. This is when I drunkenly told her that if we were ever both single, we ought to date, to which she enthusiastically agreed. For the rest of the night, whenever we danced, she held me close and tight. Post-grad, we stopped hanging out quite as much as we both got busy working multiple jobs. However, we once again started up our habit of talking every single night for hours, particularly whenever one of us was drunk, and a lot of these conversations revolved playfully around what we liked in bed. Again, we both found it easy to be extremely open with each other. She also began texting me good morning every single day. About a month after grad, we decide to go to the beach together, and we end up getting drunk on the beach and frisky in the water. We head back to my car and make out. When we got home that evening, we were sober, but continued to make out until she tells me she wants to FCK me. I agree. Later, we go to a party and get drunk again and make out again, and again she wants to FCK. After which all night we cuddled and held each other. The next day, she tells me she told her BF because she felt guilty, and then goes on to say that she has to stop talking to me because her BF, understandably, told her she was not allowed. I realized that I had been entirely in the wrong for getting so close to her from the start, and I was happy to go no contact because it was unhealthy to keep feeding the flames with a girl already in a relationship. Still, her decision to completely switch up on me after it happened by suddenly deciding to respect her BF was very, very confusing. Mainly because I couldn't help but wonder, if she wants to text me good morning every day, and wants to call me every time she's drunk, and wants to FCK me, who is she actually in love with? I also was distraught for several days because while I was holding her, I felt this overwhelmingly intense desire for her, which I had never, ever felt for anyone else before, even with previous hotter girls. Between being confused and distraught, I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't even listen to music. I'm aware this sounds disgustingly selfish, but it is how I felt nevertheless. Wanting to be at peace, I reached out one last time to ask if she had feelings for me, or if she had just been wanting to FCK the whole time. To my shock, told me that she had been feeling upset about her BF cheating on her, and that's what pushed her to come on to me. I had genuinely thought up until that point that she had gotten just as attached to me as I had to her, only to find she had been using me to get back at him. I felt enraged with her and disgusted with myself for believing she actually wanted me. And now I'm left broken with nowhere to turn because at the end of the day, I have no one to blame but myself for getting involved with a girl in a relationship. I never would have thought the other side of cheating could hurt this much. Now to the next story, story 2. I, 24M, realized that I am the problem too late. Over a year ago, I had the fortunate chance to meet an amazing person who was filled with nothing but love and dedication. We used to work at the same job, and that's how we met. We immediately hit it off and started dating. Things started out amazing. She very quickly turned into my best friend, and that's not something I've been able to say about anyone in many years. Even now, I can confidently say that she was a gift among gifts. I'm so proud of the person she is and the lessons she has taught me. I just regret how I learned them and the fact that she got hurt by my actions before I realized. I think it was from insecurity, but I cheated on her. I immediately told her out of regret, and because she is the amazing person she is, she took me back. The relationship continued, and I tried to be a better person, and things went back to normal. She eventually had to move out of state to live with her mom, and I told her that long distance is too hard for how young we are, and so the relationship ended. It's not that I didn't want to be with her, but I was afraid I would hurt her. Unfortunately, that's what I ended up doing. A few months after she moved away, I ended up sleeping with someone else, but this time I lied about it. Some people might argue that we weren't in an official relationship, but she would visit me every month, and we would sleep with each other and go on dates every day. So sleeping with someone else again is something I should not have done, and lied about it on top. Even after this, she still wanted to be with me, and over the next few months she felt less loved and not heard anymore, and I agree with her. She would bring this up, and I would say yes over and over without truly hearing her and putting in enough effort to make her feel secure and loved. So she broke up with me, and it shattered me. Even then, she still wanted me in her life and wanted to get back together when we are both in the space to do it. But after she broke up with me, I turned into an ugly, petty child. I would start arguments and say hurtful things for no reason other than my own insecurity. I was toxic and not worth all the love she put into our relationship. I realized all of this too late. I eventually learned that she had started seeing someone new, and from what I was told, there was overlap in our relationship. This hit me hard because we agreed that if we started seeing someone new, we would let the other person know, and she lied to me about this multiple times. Now, instead of talking to her about it, I turned even uglier. I tracked down her ex, and he told me things that really did make me feel like she cheated on me, and after that I went on a crusade and just started telling everyone that she cheated and that she's a serial cheater and dater. Doing all of this really hurt her. The friends I introduced her to cut her off, and I know that affected her. I am a monster for what I did, and she didn't deserve any of it. She had every right to start seeing someone new and even not tell me about it, seeing how I lied to her. I was not only lying to myself, but to everyone who would listen, and spun this story to make myself look like the victim. This eventually got back to her, and that's when I lost her forever. After some more time had passed, she sent me a letter calling me out on everything, and something clicked. I realized that I'm in denial, that I need serious help. I realized what I had done and was disgusted with myself for my petty and hurtful actions. She was my best friend, and without her, I would have never been able to admit to myself that I need to change, or I will never be happy. I just regret that she got hurt by me before I was able to face myself. Now I've spoken to my therapist and started getting evaluated by a psychiatrist. I've even gotten my first prescriptions. I don't want to be this kind of person, and I'm ashamed of myself that I am. I've avoided this for too long, and in doing so, I've lost the best thing that will ever happen to me. I was not ready for someone as wonderful as her. Every nasty thing you're typing out, I've said to myself 10 times over. I know how horrible I am. I share this not to seek sympathy, but to admit my faults and emphasize the importance of seeking help when you need it. I'm committed to becoming a better person, so I never hurt anyone like this again. Now, third story. I don't know what to do here. I'm having a major depressive episode. I've been struggling with depression and CPTSD since I was a teenager. My husband, 29, knew this marrying me. In fact, at a point I told him it wouldn't work out between us because I don't think he can deal with my issues, but he was persistent. He showed me he understood, and above all, he loved me. 3 years and 1 kid in. Our kid is 2. I promised myself I'll never let my child be traumatized or grow up in a hostile living environment, and my home is starting to turn into just that. 2 weeks ago, I'm not sure why or what triggered it, but I started feeling more and more overwhelmed and depressed. I did my best. I brought out all the tools I've learned in therapy to make sure I don't go into a spiral. I told my husband I was going through this and just needed him to be more gentle with me for a little while. Talk to me nicely. Don't depend on me too much. He works full-time and I do all the kid stuff and home stuff. I am also in school but have had zero time to actually study because, well, I have no energy. I don't know what's wrong. I just keep bursting into tears and just hate my body and everything. I still managed to have the food cooked, the dishes done, the house cleaned. I will say there was a pile-up of laundry, but with zero energy, it's been so much to do. He doesn't get it. He expects me to function normally and be on top of everything when he can't even be bothered to not throw his socks under the couch. I didn't say anything to him. His response is always how tired he is from work, and he always phrases it as, "Why don't you try working?" which just makes me feel like a burden, so I avoid it now. 2 days ago, I decided to just push myself, had 4 cups of coffee, put my toddler to bed and deep cleaned. I did the dishes and cooked for at least 2 days so I could have the next night, after my kid goes to bed, to study and maybe journal a bit to understand why I keep bursting into tears. The next day, I walk into the kitchen and I find my husband cooking for himself, even though I had cooked. So I told him, "Why are you cooking? Food's already prepped, and you just worked all day." His response was, "I want to eat this, not that." Okay, whatever. I walked away. The mess he made, not a big mess, overwhelmed me. My child, on top of this, decided to not sleep, which meant I stay up late at night with him too. So any plans I had to fix things for myself were gone in an instant. This started a big fight. I started it. I told him he knew I'd get overwhelmed. Why did he leave his dishes, etc.? And he was back to, "I'm so tired from work, I don't have time to fight." In that instant, I also realized why I was depressed. My husband gives me no appreciation, love, or even kindness. In fact, he takes time to make sure he puts me down instead. He is constantly sending me videos on losing weight or snapping out of depression, yet when I try to actually make any changes in my life, I see an instant change in him. I see him sabotage my attempts. I can't communicate with him at all. He is avoidant and likes to stick to his "I'm tired from work" phrase. That's all I ever get to hear. He also is very defensive and will point out or start making up things that I didn't do. Like when I'm weeping and asking for empathy and reassurance and love. I get that. What do you want from me? I work all day. It makes me suicidal. I was seeing a therapist, but the more I work on myself, the more I realize I may not be the problem. Today I told him he has 1 month to either find a marriage counselor or a divorce lawyer. He chose divorce. He said I'm the one who needs therapy, not him. I've tried just talking to him nicely, or when he is in a good mood, he pretends to listen, but we somehow always end up in this same place where I feel unwanted and unloved by him, and he feels like I'm too demanding. He also doesn't want me returning to my minimum wage job, which is why I joined school, he insisted. I'm also trying to help him start a business right now as well. I just feel like he gets to leave the house and then be off for the rest of the day because he went to work while I'm stuck working every single second I live and breath. I can't even take a day off. If I did, everything will pile up, and it's JJSD more work me. Today I couldn't bring myself to cook or clean or do anything. I just decided to focus on being a parent and just a parent, but I got to hear a lot because of that. I made him a sandwich and then heard the million things that were wrong with this fudging sandwich. That made me angry enough to yell and ask why he has so much apathy towards me. What am I doing wrong? Should I just shut up and see what happens next, or just leave? Or stay? I love him, but at times it just feels like he isn't the person I fell in love with. That guy treated me so well. This change has been since last year, so not really because of parenting either. If anything, I thought becoming parents brought us closer, but since last summer he is just someone else. I feel like I lost my husband and am grieving him. Now to the last story. I think my wife cheated, but I can't prove it. My 35M wife, 35F, has been very sketchy recently. Several years ago, we used to be in swingers, but then she became a teacher at a local middle school, and we both agreed it needed to stop. Also, I had really started to lose interest in the lifestyle. Not sure this is even relevant, but thought I'd mention it. Since this January, her behavior has changed. All of the normal stuff, reduced sex drive, and lots of time on her phone. Plus, she had a male coworker that she frequently talked about. Apparently, he's very funny. She was going out on Fridays after work about twice a month and not returning home until after midnight. This bothered me as I felt it was unsafe for her to be out so late. She claimed that she was fine and they just liked to hang out. I didn't mind her going out as occasionally I did the same with my friends occasionally, but always home before midnight. I had mentioned that I would like to go to one of these get-togethers. However, she said spouses haven't attended and she would find it weird. I knew that was stupid as who cares, and her parents could keep our kids for the night. The next week, a month ago, I just showed up anyway. She was sitting next to this male coworker, and two other teachers had the husbands with them. While I was there, Brad and my wife barely even talked. Odd given how much she would talk about him. FYI, Brad is not even attractive and he's a teacher. I make way more than this man. I can't understand what she sees in this guy. By comparison, I am moderately attractive while Brad is maybe a 5 out of 10. He must have an amazing personality or a huge sausage. I don't know. The whole thing wrapped up around 9:30 p.m., not 1 a.m. All very sketchy. At that point, I was convinced something was going on. The next day, I checked our phone records and they were texting frequently every day, 5 to 20 times a day every day. I ended up confronting her and asked to see her text messages. I didn't tell her that I had checked our phone records. She said I was being paranoid and showed me. Their chat history showed only a few text messages per week despite the fact that he was above me on the list, and I had texted her that same day. At that point, I am 100% positive something was going on. Again, I didn't tell her what I knew, but I told her that I wasn't cool with her relationship with Brad and I had some thinking to do. She told me I was being crazy, and then I slept on the couch. The next day, she let me know that she would stop associating with him unless it was strictly work-related. I didn't believe her. I then hired a PI to track her when she went out, but she hasn't gone out again for the last month. Ultimately, I'm out a few $1,000s I paid the PI since she's behaving herself. Now she's returned to her pre-affair self. Unfortunately, I can't prove she cheated, but I'm 99% certain she did. I'm leaning towards divorce, but we have kids and again I can't prove anything. I'm still sleeping on the couch, which really upsets her. She has initiated sex on several occasions, but I haven't been interested. She told me she would transfer to a different school if that would help me calm down, still claiming that I'm being crazy. We live in an at-fault state, so not being able to prove anything really sucks.